Hi, and welcome to Real Talk. I'm Audrey George with Audrey George Consulting, and I'm happy to welcome my co-host today, Chanita Jones. Chanita is a teacher, a speaker, a liberator, and newly an entrepreneur. And we're here with our special guest, Brenda Asare. Brenda is the president and CEO of the Alford Group. Brenda, Chanita, welcome to you both.
Thank you
Thank
so much, Audrey. Looking forward to our time together today.
Very
you.
excited for this conversation. Brenda, let's just start with you kind of sharing your background. Tell us kind of who you are and how you got to the chair that you sit in today.
Oh my gosh. Well, the pathway to my chair really started when I was in college and just found a passion for working in the nonprofit community. I came to this work really out of a calling. My grandfather, whom I was very close to, was dying from lung cancer. And
Mm.
so my very first job out of college was working for the American Cancer Society. I went into that work for a couple of years, and then I realized that um, nonprofits really were businesses with a heart, and we had a different kind of return on investment. It was return on mission.
Mm.
Decided to go back to secure my MBA in marketing, all with the desire to come back into the nonprofit sector to help the nonprofit sector become much more business minded, again, with a heart, but having those really solid business practices that would lead us to have stronger and more resilient organizations, therefore allowing nonprofits to help more people. So subsequently, 17 years in the nonprofit sector as Chief Development Officer for the American Red Cross. I joined Alford Group 20 years ago. And the last 10 years, I've been serving as President, CEO, and owner of Alford Group, a national consultancy working with nonprofit organizations to advance their missions.
That's right. That's right. And I think, Brenda, your career is unique. From what I have seen, I know a lot of business owners. I don't know a lot of folks that have kind of come into their role though in the way that you had, which I think is really compelling and interesting and something I want to dig into today. But first, Chanita, if you could share your background, please. Who are you in the world and what are you up to and how did you get to doing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you described me teacher, leader, liberator, entrepreneur. And I really like to think I was born this way. Honestly, I have always had this burning desire for justice. And as a young girl, the place where you see the greatest need, or I saw the greatest need, was in schools, in education, just seeing the differences and the variances and what was available. My mom was really intentional about making sure we had quality education. So we moved schools pretty frequently. And so I had a wealth of experience in that. And so I knew I was here to do something in alignment with that. And so I went to school to study special education. But naturally, I am a problem solver, a questioner. I
Mm.
am someone who is articulate and is going to say what is on my mind, a woman with words. I'm a organizer and structure. Those are just some of the natural skill sets. So I excelled in school, and I also took those things into the spaces, the schools, later in nonprofit organizations, and now just wanting to leverage that more for some of the pieces that I haven't seen show up in other places, and really focusing on a different type of education as well. So that's what I'm doing these days, and I'm loving it. I found it Lightbearers Institute so that I can provide some of those structures and supports around education, specifically around identity development, self-awareness, self-determination, self-discipline. And I also continue to serve in the traditional spaces because special education always has a special place in my heart, and just making sure educators are equipped in that way. So I travel and train teachers across the state, and that's enjoyable in its own ways too.
And
Janita, I
so
want
I'm
to
going
be
to
in
ask,
your class.
I want to ask you both, and Chanita, I'll start with you. What made you make the foray into entrepreneurship?
The calling, the having a problem that you aren't seeing yourself able to solve in the spaces that you find yourself in. I feel like in my career, has always been an aspiration like, oh, okay, if I take this position, I'll be able to do this. If I take this position, I'll be able to do that. And then saying, you know what? I'm not going to keep looking for the positions. I'm going to
Mm.
create the position because I'm equipped to do that. And that's really where it stemmed from.
Love everything about that. Brenda, let's talk about your journey to entrepreneurship. What made you wake up one day and say, you know what? I think I'm going to buy this company. How did that happen?
I'm going to be very honest. It really was through prayer. The founder of Alford Group had passed away, and the current president and CEO was ready to retire. I was running half of the country. I was a senior vice president running everything east of the Mississippi, and I had a colleague who was running everything west of the Mississippi. And I've I was ready for a change, and the stars just aligned, and I prayed about it in terms of what my next should be. Jimmy, who was the founder, Jimmy Alford, was a wonderful mentor to me, and I prayed about my next steps, and the answer that I got was, why don't you buy the firm? So I approached the then current owner and asked, under what circumstances would you consider a leveraged buyout of Alfred Group? I knew he wanted to retire. He was ecstatic because he too was trying to figure out his exit and
Mm,
transition and didn't have a buyer, showing up. And we went into that a 10-year buyout. And next year, I will have completed that transaction with him, the 10 years. And I felt at the time it was an opportunity for me to take Alpha Group in a different direction, to formalize and really become a much more process-oriented
mm.
organization. Alpha Group had always been a very family-oriented organization. And I really wanted to professionalize the way we conducted business, having solid systems in place. I also wanted to solidify the work that we were doing in the marketplace as related to innovation and staying ahead of what was happening in traditional fundraising. And it was an opportunity for me to do what I love to do, and why I have stayed in this sector for the 30 years of my career is the opportunity to try new things. I've loved being in this sector. I've been privileged to work with managers who allowed me to play and treat my work like a laboratory, to try different things, to learn from those things, to pivot, to keep going, to innovate. And that's what I've been doing over the past 10 years, is really building a culture of curiosity. You talked about that, Chanita, asking questions, um, curiosity about what if, how can we do this better? How can we partner with our clients in different ways to help them go further? How can we raise their sights? What are the new tools we can introduce to the sector to help create greater sustainability and resilience? So I've been having fun over the past 10 years doing that kind of work in close collaboration with some very, very talented team members here at Alfred Group.
And Brenda, could you spend a minute talking about like the actual buyout? Like, how did you come up with the idea for a leveraged buyout? I think these are kind of concepts that are new to a lot of folks.
Yeah, there was a book, and I can't remember the name of the book right now, but it was about how to buy a business.
Mm,
And I read that book cover to cover. And at the same time, I was working with the organization, and the chair of their board was a venture capitalist. And he and I struck up a great relationship. The client that I was working with, for whom he was the board chair, was in Haiti. So we traveled to Haiti together and really had an opportunity to get to know each other better. So I read this great book on how to buy a business. I called Chuck and said, Chuck, I want to buy a business and I need your help. I need a valuation of the consultancy. The CEO was asking, for a price point, and I felt that he was overvaluing the
mm,
company. He was basing the value on revenue, and I knew that's not how you value a company, because you can have revenue, you can also have great expenses and still not make any money.
that's right.
So that book, How to Buy a Business, was my Bible, because it provided a step-by-step guide and the kinds of questions I should be asking. So I worked with Chuck to value the company and um, He was my advisor, and later he became my Vistage chair. About a year later, he
Mm,
started up a Vistage group and invited me to be a part of that group. And I've been a part of Vistage for the past 10 years, and he continues to be my chair and one of my greatest champions and mentors.
that's outstanding. And so for folks that don't know, Vistage is a kind of it's a leadership group. It's small peer groups of about 12, maybe 15 people made up of CEOs that kind of come together and like explore opportunities, explore challenges in a safe and confidential setting. So that I've been a part of a group myself. That's another thing Brenda and I have in common. But I think you bring up the point of research, right? You did your own research, but then you went and got help from an expert, right?
Okay.
Someone who was a mentor, really, but also like your professional kind of minded person in that process. Like you knew something wasn't quite right. You didn't have to become the expert, right? I think that's a thing some of us try to do. Like we try to become the expert in everything. I've been guilty of that myself in the past, right? Um, and
You
learning
know,
to
and
kind
that
of
was
bring
the
in
value.
folks.
That was the value of Vistage because I don't, my board of directors are pretty much insiders
That's
to
right.
Alford Group, and I needed an external view of what I was doing. That's been one of the benefits of being a part of Vistage is I have 12 other board members whom I meet with once a month, and I have an opportunity to bring an issue forward. I also have an opportunity to listen to the challenges that are facing them. And what I find is, regardless of the size of your business, there are just some common challenges that we all deal with. Number one, people. Number two, culture.
Yep.
Number three, how to be the best leaders that we can be to inspire and empower and mobilize for results. So this just really has been, as I said, my advisory board over the past 10 years. They care, but they don't care. When they leave the room, I don't feel that anyone is being critical of what we heard in the room. Whatever we heard in the room, we leave it in the room,
That's
and we
right.
trust each other, and we can follow up with each other. If I have questions about a bonus plan, I have 12 other people whom I can go to ask, well, how did you set up your bonus plan? So it's been great being a part of that group and having additional mentors and advisors.
I think this is a really great point. And I really want to go back to something you said early on and kind of get both of your take on this. But Brenda, this is something you and I aligned on years and years ago when we first met. Like we both treated running a nonprofit like a business, right? And that's
Mhm.
not something I think a lot of people kind of connect those two things naturally. And Chanita, in your case, you're looking at education in a way that you can bring kind of a business approach to it. Can you talk to us about how you've thought of this in creating your company?
Yes, in general, because I think I felt empowered to create my company because I had to build programs that were very professionalized from the ground up within a nonprofit, right? That a space that was very mission oriented, heart centered, which I loved, and that's the attraction point. But I really do believe in systems as a way to replicate.
Mhm.
And so, as an educator researcher, what I know is something is effective if I can implement with fidelity, but you don't know
Mm,
what fidelity is if you don't have structures and systems. So, as an educator entrepreneur, my intention, especially because my vision is a transformation in education, that's big, right? This is a big
Nice.
vision. It has to be a formulaic way that you might go about it. Yes, making adaptations because I'm all about individualization, but how do I individualize in a way that's going to be effective and still hold the integrity of what we're doing? And that's what I think about when it comes to leadership. I think it's very important to have those foundations and structures in place that anybody can pick up and implement. It will exist without me, which
mm.
made me comfortable leaving behind a space where I built programs and systems from the ground up, but also makes me feel like I can do this over and over and over again and expand impact. So, you know what? I can transform education.
Brenda, I saw a lot of kind of
Yeah,
nodding
you
and
know what
smiling.
really resonated with me, Shanita, one of the things I think about as a leader is how do I replicate myself, right? Because you want to be able to equip your team, your clients, your customers, build their capacity, teach them how to fish for a lifetime because you're helping them to develop and grow as well. And that resonates so strongly with me as I think about, my journey as a leader and what does it mean to be a leader, to not only be a catalyst for inspiration, but also be a steward of the mission of the organization. So I love what you had to say in terms of being able to replicate systems, and then you can focus on the doing of the work because you have a solid foundation upon which you're building.
Yes.
And Brenda, how do you go about developing folks in your organization? How do you kind of bring along the next group of leaders?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And we're very dedicated to growing leaders here at Alford Group. And it's so funny, I can think of when I first got into consulting, um, you never think you know enough because you think you have to know everything as a consultant. That's one of the pressures of not only being a consultant, but also being a CEO and a leader. You feel like you have to have all the answers. And I can remember early on, I had a very successful career as a chief development officer, raising lots of money. I knew how to do that. I was running large development departments. And then when I came into consulting, my question was, do I know enough? And I tell you, Alford, I would go out with Jimmy, early on when I joined the consultancy. And I'd had 20 years of experience as a development professional. And we would go to meetings, and Jimmy just midway through the meeting would say, I'm going to turn it over to Brenda now, and she can walk us through the rest of the meeting. Well, I had to pay attention, number one, because the first time it happened, it was a little bit of a softball. But then I learned as I went out with him, I had to be ready in case he turned the wheel over to me. And
Mhm.
so I try to do that for my staff. I try to give them incrementally increased responsibilities. Our client service associates, very, very smart, talented young people. Most of them are right out of college or out of graduate school. And so we give them voice early on when we're working with the client. They're not just there to take notes. So we send them to the Lilly School of Philanthropy so they can understand the world of nonprofits and fundraising. We encourage membership in professional organizations, and we start giving them, different projects to handle. And after a while, we can let go of the wheel and they're driving. And I love seeing that kind of growth in my team members when I know that they can fill in or we can go into a meeting. I'm in the meeting, but they can walk the client through the agenda and they understand how to manage a meeting. And for me, that's the kind of professional development that I was exposed to. There was a high level of trust and confidence in my competence. And that's what I try to do with my team members, really build their confidence that they know enough, or if they don't know, we'll find out. So that's the other thing that I've learned as a leader is not being afraid to say, I don't know, I'll find out and I'll be back in touch with the answer. So again, just kind of freeing myself from feeling like I have to know everything.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm hearing a number of things in that answer. I'm hearing kind of when you're developing folks, you're providing education, you're providing kind of structure through outside
Hmm.
groups that they kind of go and learn from other people, but you're also providing kind of that incremental opportunity for exposure, right? To kind of take a leap, take a chance,
Yes,
let them take part of that meeting. But a key piece in that is you're willing to step back. Right. I think a lot
yes,
of times, especially as owners, like we can get stuck on like, it's my name on the door and it has to be
yes.
exactly so, and making space. How do you approach that? Have you thought about that consciously, or is that something that comes more naturally to you?
It comes more naturally to me because I know I can't be everywhere all the time, and I'm depending on them to represent the consultancy with excellence at all levels. And I want them to feel that they're on a learning journey as they're on a learning journey as well. And there's a growth opportunity for them. While I want them to stay here, as long as we all are benefiting from their talent here, I also realize too that oftentimes this is a stepping stone to whatever their next thing is in their career. And oftentimes we've had people come back We've had some of our young consultants come back after they've had some actual hands-on experience working in a development shop, or they might bring us in as consultants of choice. Many of them go and they stay in the nonprofit sector, so we continue to have a strong relationship. And so I have to take my ego off the table. Part of the ego should be, am I developing people in a way that they can stand on their two legs and be confident in their work here as a consultant with Alford Group and continue to move clients forward. So for me, I love it when I see our consultants take the reign and I'm just sitting in the back seat enjoying the ride.
If I may ask a question, because I am learning so much in this conversation, I'm so grateful. I hear that there are some values that are really coming through from what I'm hearing for you. One of them is growth, and I heard a lot about that in the willingness to learn, whether that's you learning yourself or really inspiring others or creating opportunities for others to learn. But I also hear this value of excellence, and I'm wondering how that might be something that you operationalize in the space. So, for example, I'm hearing like there's an opportunity that I'm going to present for you to practice and build your confidence, but you might fail, right? And failure is a part of the growth process. So, how do I create those opportunities, but also keep this standard of excellence at the same time? Does that question make sense?
So I think that's a great question. I love this conversation. Um, because that's the tension between the two in terms of excellence and allowing failure to happen. And not everything is going to work out. And we've had some oops that have happened, along the way. And we take those as learnings and lessons. And how are we going to operate differently next time? Um, we practice. One of the things that we do with clients, particularly board members, when we're working on campaigns and they have to do a solicitation, ask people for money, we role play it. And so sometimes, we allow that kind of environment to be a safe place for us to practice with each other. And when I talk about excellence, I don't want folks to feel encumbered because they always have to be perfect.
Mm,
I'm looking at the intentionality and the impact.
mm.
So we try to really lean into that value of honest partnership, joyfulness in our work, continuous learning. Excellence is only at the center because we feel that if you're able to activate all of those levers, you're going to come up with a product, you're going to come up with a service in a partnership that's going to advance our work as a consultancy and help our clients achieve their goals and their vision and ultimately their impact in the world.
This is so exciting. Great information. Thank you for sharing. Can I ask another question, Audrey? Is that okay?
Absolutely. Please don't ask.
Okay. So I am because I have my experience as a leader in other people's spaces. And so as I'm coming into this space where I am a leader needing to develop additional leaders to expand impact. I'm wondering if you have any advice for skill sets, but more so muscles I need to exercise. So one of them is like sit your ego down because your job is to develop leaders. And I think that that is the important definition of leadership. It's not like I do everything, I'm in front. It is I bring out the best in others and allow them to do what they're great at, right? Which took me some time to learn, but I got there. But I'm wondering if there are other things that I should focus on developing and growing as a leader and entrepreneur.
I consume a lot of information. So I like to think I know a little bit about a lot of things. And because I feel like I always want to be ready to make a connection. I never meet a stranger because I feel that I can always find something that we can connect around. If it's sports, I love football. We can talk about football. I could talk a little bit about basketball. I can talk a little bit about almost anything. I watch the History Channel. I watch animal shows, folks who love dogs. I know a little bit about dogs. So I think being a continuous learner, Shanita, is really, really important. Just so you can become just a fount of knowledge about different things and you're able to build different kinds of connections. The other thing as a leader, and this is something that I've worked really hard at, is being a good listener and pausing before always feeling like I have to respond right away or my mind is racing as someone else is speaking because I want to jump in. So really being a good listener, because what I'm listening for, particularly if challenges come my way or if someone is bringing a problem, I ask, what is the problem we're really trying to solve? And oftentimes, as you listen to people talk, you can understand it may not be the initial thing that they brought to you. It really could be, I don't feel confident that I can move this forward, or I don't have the resources, or I just need to say it out loud and just get some additional input without saying, tell me the answer. And so I think being a really good listener, because I practice that also with my kids who are now young adults. As they were growing up, I learned really quickly if I jumped out there with an answer, they were very resistant. So the tool that I've put into practice, and I do this with my team members, and I also do it with my young adult children. When they come to me, I ask the question, so tell me what you need from me. Do you need me to listen? Do you want me to help you come up with options? Or do you want me to tell you what I would do? So tell me which lane do you want me to operate from? Then that way, there's a sense of clarity and I'm staying in the right lane. And ultimately, they come up with their own answers, right? It could be a combination of what they were already thinking, and maybe I've added a little bit of some thought-provoking insights that can blend and inform their, thinking and ultimate solution. But I think just being a good listener and really understanding what is the problem or question that we're really trying to answer.
Yeah, and if I could, I would add on to that, Chanita, I would add kind of the listening piece is key. And we're not just listening for what people are saying. We're also have to
Yes,
be listening with our eyes, kind of with our kind of senses, like what else, what just happened? Like, did somebody tense up? Did
yes,
somebody relax? Did their shoulders just go down? And now we're into the
yes,
right space. And also we need to listen for what people aren't saying. So I talk
yes,
to leaders a lot about if you're talking, if you're driving, if you're pushing forward, people are going to go along. You're the leader. They're going to follow you. And if you
right.
kind of pause for a second to wait for an answer and people just seem like, yeah, okay, then, and you keep going, you might miss some really important feedback. And so there are times when you just pause and you sit in the pause and let's see who speaks next. And there are times that you need to recognize when anything other than a resounding yes actually means maybe not, or just plain no, right? Because if it's a big initiative and you're gung ho about it and you're looking for that confirmation, you've got the confirmation bias, right? You're looking for people to
Yes,
agree with you. And if they seem amenable, you're like, great, let's do it. Versus if you take that pause and you wait and you really listen, are they saying, this is a great idea and exactly what we should do next? Or are they saying, okay, um, okay, sure, right? Like that's not, yes, that's not, we agree. And so you could miss key feedback from your team that could help you make that initiative even stronger, even better.
yeah. And some of the things that I do, because you're absolutely right. As a leader, sometimes I discount my presence. I think I'm just showing up. I'm just Brenda. But for them, I'm Brenda. I'm the CEO. I'm the leader. I may already have a perception or a direction that I want to go in. So typically, when we are in discussions, I speak last
Amen.
because I want to
Yes.
hear what everyone else, or sometimes I leave the room just to kind of let some air in the room and they feel they can say whatever they need to say. And then when I go back, someone is likely to summarize whatever transpired to then get my reaction. So as a leader, you have to know when to be in and when to be out.
And I think it's a tricky line to walk, right? Because like as a leader, it's our job to set the vision. That's literally the
Mhm.
job. right? Except for we need to include voices across our organizations to make sure we're implementing that vision in the best way possible. And so we have to kind of create the space in which sometimes we are out in front and saying, this is the way we're heading, but
That's right.
also get out of our own way and get out of the
Yeah.
organization's way by letting others speak up. And so kind of like when
Yeah.
Brenda mentioned, anytime there's a brainstorming session, the minute you as the leader seem to be heading in a direction, brainstorm is over. Because now people
That's
are going to
right.
brainstorm around the thing that you seem to like, versus keep digging into maybe some other completely different possibilities that we haven't had a chance to open kind of thinking into just yet.
It feels good. I feel like I have a strong foundation. So I want to circle back to one more thing that I heard and get both of your insight on it. So I hear that part of leadership is being relatable, which is why we keep learning outside of our domains and really are building connections. And Audrey, I've witnessed just how great you are at that. And I'm hearing that that's important, and how you leverage that, Brenda, in your work, even having someone that you can go to and say, hey, I'm looking to do this, help me with that. And out of all of the things that you all said, I think that might be the one where I'm not as practiced. Yes, I have all the information, and I learn things, but I guess I wonder, how do you maybe connect in those circles? I think, if I can be transparent and vulnerable, that my practice has been, it's really transactional. If someone asks me to do something, I'm willing, but if I don't have anything that I need from you or to ask you for, or there's no purpose, right, then just connecting makes it seems a little bit challenging, but it seems like that's important, like building the network, building the connections. And I'm wondering what advice you might have for even just being in the spaces with people who are like-minded, and might be supportive of your work, and that you can keep learning and growing together with.
I would say, Chanita, you are naturally inquisitive. You are a person who loves to learn, and kind of I'm the same way. And so I love to learn who people are and what they do and why they do it, and like why they chose that business, or why their business does that thing that way, or why they made this choice or that choice. Like, I love to know all of that. I love to learn about how people operate and why. And so just kind of questions about that is learning that I think there's a way to connect with. And you said kind of like-minded folks. I think folks that may not be so like-minded also, there's plenty to learn from. There's also often more to learn from, right? If you think somebody thinks something different. Brenda brought up kind of Vistage groups earlier. Like when I joined Vistage, I was the only nonprofit in my group. And so you could have thought, like, what am I going to learn from these folks? An absolute ton, right? Those issues around people and culture and how to be the best leader I can be that Brenda outlined earlier, those were the same for all of us. And the guy who runs the steel company and the guy who runs the food manufacturing company and I all had very similar issues that we were dealing with. But because they handled them in such different ways, that's actually where I often learned the most. Because if we're kind of at the steel manufacturers and they're walking us through their production, something just that I would have never thought of, like, all of a sudden pops into your head, right? Like, oh, and it lets you kind of those kind of thoughts, those processes that we've had, that we do this thing because that's how we do this thing. All of a sudden you look at that like in reverse or upside down in a whole different angle, and you get like this aha that you're like, oh, I can make this even better. I see a whole different way to look at this now. So I would encourage kind of just asking people, who are you and what do you do, right? And why do you do that? And just kind of digging into those questions. And people love to talk about themselves. You're not going to have any trouble getting people to tell you about themselves, and learn from folks that way. Brenda, I don't know how you'd answer that question.
The other thing that I heard, Chanita, was this reciprocity, where you're very open to serving others, being in service to others. I can tell that's part of your love language, is service. And like you, it's challenging for me to ask for help and to ask other people to help me. And I have just found you have to do it. That's part of building that relationship, because people feel that when you're always serving them, they also want to serve you. And oftentimes you don't have to do it alone. And I think about, what is it that I need and who can best help me? And I reach out and say, hey, I have a favor. I'm thinking about this, or I need to make a connection here. I'm trying to find out about this. Do you know anyone who might be able to, help me with the resource or make an introduction? And so it's really, really sitting down and really thinking about who's in your network and why are they in your network, and knowing that people really want to help other people. So give them a chance. When you think about it, could be something simple. I'm getting ready to go to New York for Mother's Day. So for my staff, I said, hey, I'm looking for fun, different things to do in New York and fine dining. What recommendations do you have? Sometimes is I love to cook. And I might ask, I'm looking for a new recipe. Who has a new recipe that I can try? So you start small in terms of asking, because people love helping. Because think about how much joy you receive from helping,
That's right.
and just know that you're making someone else's day when you ask them for help as well.
So for anyone who's listening to us, what I'm hearing is we have to surrender fear of being intrusive when we ask questions more broadly or ask for help. And that's one of my big takeaways from what both of you are saying. So thank you for that.
You do such a great job of summarizing what you hear. I love that about you. You're
Thank you.
great at synthesizing information.
Yes, it's one of
I
my
can see
gifts.
that. Yes.
So I want to kind of work us towards wrapping up here with a couple of questions. And my first is, Brenda, we'll start with you, and Chanita, go to you next. What do you want your leadership legacy to be?
That's such a powerful question. Oftentimes, when I think about legacy, I think about impact. I think about, did I leave the world better than I found it?
Mm-hmm.
And it really wasn't until I had children, to be honest, and I worked in this sector, that I really thought about legacy and making a difference. It wasn't all about me. So my legacy for Alford Group is I want it to be an ongoing concern beyond Brenda, that there will be a fourth. I'm the third CEO of a 45-year-old consultancy. I want there to be a fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and so on. An organization that continues to bring value and help clients advance their missions by making their missions more possible, by serving the world in a way that is transformational, as Chanita talked about. I want my legacy to be, at the end of the day, I want my children to say that I was a loving parent. I provided guidance. I supported them in their aspirations. Um, I want my team members to say that I was approachable. I cared about their growth. I always had a growth mindset. And I'm a believer that all things are possible. So I want them to say, I always was reaching for the stars, and always thinking about, how are we going to get there, and how are we going to bring others with us in pursuing whatever the dream is. So I want them to say, I brought people along and I lifted them up, and hopefully I left the world a better place.
I love that. Chanita, how about you?
Yeah, similarly, I want to leave the world a better place, and to me that means that I have left something that empowered people to be more themselves, to
Mm,
be more free. I really consider myself someone who shows up and unleashes souls. So whether that's me showing up as my fullest self and being a demonstration, or whether that's me educating and inviting people through my questions to really be more of themselves, or as a leadership or being in leadership, inviting people to show up fully and to contribute what they have in the world. And that's really what I would love to be my legacy.
Chanita, is there a piece of advice you've gotten over the years that has stuck with you around leadership, or around kind of how to kind of carry yourself or lead others?
Yes. This is one that I picked up recently, but I can see how it would have served me in so many other spaces. And it is clarity is kindness. I think it matches
Mm,
the tension around creating structures and systems and how to's. And so just being very clear. So clarity is kindness.
love that. Brenda, how about you? Was there a piece of advice that you've gotten over the years that you've really held on to?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have had some wonderful mentors over the years. And one that really stuck with me is when faced with a big decision, to give myself 24 hours to
Mm.
really think about it. And that's a growth opportunity for many of us because we feel that we have to have the answer on the spot.
Mm.
And what I have found when I give myself 24 hours, here are some of the things that could happen. Number one, it resolves itself. Number two, I have more information. Number three, it may not be as urgent as we all thought it was, but it gives us some time to exhale and really kind of look at the information in front of us and then make a decision. And I've also learned too that once I've made a decision, we talked about failure, I'm making the best decision that I can with the information that I have. So that has really helped me take the pressure off of feeling like I have to make a quick decision in the moment. Now, certainly there are times, but for the most part, we're not doing heart surgery where the scalpel is at the heart at that moment, and we can take the time to really exhale, breathe, and really have a sense of clarity about what the next best steps are.
And really, Brenda, it sounds like that's something that could apply or does apply at work, but also in your personal
Yes,
life. I can see that being really good advice kind of in all
yes,
aspects.
yes. Yeah.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Okay, so last question for both of you. Brenda, I'm going to start with you. Is there a mantra you live by when you're kind of getting yourself fired up or when you're running into a wall? Is there something
Well,
that you turn to?
well, this over the past almost 3.5 months, it's felt like we've had walls surrounding us in this moment in terms of what's going on in this climate of uncertainty. But a mantra that I abide by is there's a gift in every crisis.
Mm.
So there's always a way out. And I love quotes. So the quote that I want to share with you and leave you with is when you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't.
Oh, say that one more time, please.
When you have exhausted all possibilities, remember this, you haven't.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. Chanita, I can tell you like that one.
Love that. Yes. My mantra the last 6 months has been really combating fear. So it's been step into the arena. Step into the arena. Like keep stepping into the arena. Like you're be in battle. You can do it. So
Yep. My word for 2025 is unstoppable. So again, that's why this quote really resonates with me. And the only way you're going to get through anything is to keep moving through it, right? And again, faith is the ability to see the light even in the darkness. So keep going.
These are outstanding thoughts and inputs and insights. I want to share to both of you just how grateful I am for your being here. I just want to thank you. And I want to end with just let's be unstoppable. Let's hold on to that one. That's a great place to end. Thank you both so much.
Thank you so much, Audrey. Thanks, Shanita. All
thank
good things.
you. Yes, it's been a pleasure.
It has been wonderful being together today. Thank you all so much. I feel so inspired and energized. So thank
Thanks.
you. What a gift.
Thank you both.